All right, today's lesson is on adding and subtracting decimals. There is a learning goal associated with this lesson, and that's that you should be able to add, subtract, multiply, and divide decimals. So obviously today we're just working on the addition and subtraction piece of that learning goal. So we will talk about multiplying and dividing at a different time. So let's say that you go to the store and you're buying two things, and one of them costs $13.78 and one of them costs $24.62. The important thing to remember when you're adding decimals is you want to make sure that your decimal points are lined up with each other. So they need to be completely in line with each other. If you have them misaligned, then you will not get the correct answer. So we want to make sure that all of our place values are lined up, that the ones place is lined up, the tens place is lined up, the tenths and the hundredths, as well as your decimal point. And you can make sure that all those places are lined up by lining up your decimal point. So as I'm adding these two things together, I'm just going to go through and start with my least significant place value right here in the hundredths place. So I'm going to add 8 plus 2, and I will see that I get 10. Now I can't write a 10 in the hundredths place, so I'm going to write a 0 and then carry a 1. So I have 10 hundredths, which is the same as 1/10. So I've now converted that over into 1/10, and I'm going to add 7 plus 6 plus 1, and that's 14 again. I will keep 4 of those tenths, but then take 10 tenths, makes 1 whole. So I'll carry that over to the ones place, and then I will add 1 plus 3 plus 4, which is 8. Nothing to carry there because an 8 will fit right there in the ones place. And then I add the 1 and the 2 in the tens place, which gives me 30. So I can see that the total cost of this shopping trip is going to be $38.40. Not including tax, of course. Here's another example of adding. If I am keeping track of my running for the week, and I have run 2.5 miles on Monday, I've run 1.17 miles on Tuesday, and now I've run 3.9 miles on Wednesday, and I want to know, well, what's the total distance that I ran on Monday and Tuesday? Did I run as far in those 2 days as I did on Wednesday? And you can see that over here on the right. I've set up my addition problem again, and again, I've lined up my decimal points. If instead of lining up my decimal points, I moved the 2.5 over. So for example, if I wrote it like this, so that I had my last numbers lined up, but I don't have my decimal points lined up, I don't have my place values lined up, that is not going to work. So I need to line up my decimal points, and then I have, you can see I have the ones place lined up, I have the tenths place lined up. Now it may be that just leaving a blank spot like we have here in the hundredths place in 2.5 is confusing for you, so you may want to add a 0 as a placeholder there just to keep track of the fact that we have 0 in the hundredths place. And then I can just continue to add, so 0 plus 7 is 7, 5 plus 1 is 6, and 2 plus 1 is 3. And then I'm just going to bring my decimal point down and put it in the same spot when I'm adding decimals. I'm just keeping all my place values lined up. So I end up with the fact that I ran 3.67 miles on Monday and Tuesday. So I actually ran farther on Wednesday than I did on either of those 2 days. As an example of subtracting, again, when I'm subtracting, same thing as before, I need to line up my decimal points. So that stays the same between adding and subtracting decimals. Again, we're lining up the decimal points. So what if I want to know, well, how much further did I run on Monday than I ran on Tuesday? So I'm going to subtract my Tuesday distance from my Monday distance. And again, it may be easier for you to add a 0 here, especially when you're subtracting, into the place as a placeholder. where there's nothing. And you can always add zeros onto the end of decimal numbers because that's what we're saying. There's nothing in that place. So now when I go to subtract, I'm going to do 0 minus 7. I can see that 2.5 is larger than 1.17. So when I subtract this, I want to have a positive number for my answer. So I can't just say, well, this is going to be a negative. I need to borrow because my whole answer needs to be positive. So just like when I was adding, I would carry when I had extra numbers. I can borrow numbers from the place value to the left. So the way we usually show that is by crossing out the number to the left. I'm going to take 1/10 and I'm going to borrow that and put it in the hundredths place. Now if I move 1/10 over to hundredths place, 1/10 is the same as 10 hundredths. So I'm just going to add a 1 here to show that I have a 1 and a 0, which is 10 hundredths. So now I'm going to take this number, the 10, minus 7 gives me 3. 4 minus 1 I can do, and that is also 3. And then 2 minus 1 is 1. And again, I'm just going to bring my decimal point right down in the same spot, and I can see that on Monday I ran 1.33 miles further than I did on Tuesday. One more additional example when I'm subtracting. Let's say my grandmother gave me $12 and I went down to Casey's immediately and bought some chips or something, maybe a pop, and I ended up spending $3.89. So I want to know, okay, how much money am I going to have left if I make this purchase? So I could wait until I get my change, which is obviously probably what normal people would do, but I want to make sure that I have enough money left over for something else. So I'm going to do this subtraction in my head, or figure out this subtraction before I do the purchase, so I make sure I have enough money left over. Now you can see there's no decimal point in the 12. So that could be a little bit confusing. Well, how am I going to line up my decimal points if there's no decimal in the 12? We just have to remember that when you have a whole number, there's always an invisible decimal point at the end of it. You can't put it somewhere in the middle because that changes the value of the number. But 12.0 and 12 are the same thing. So I can put that invisible decimal point over there at the end of it so I can see it. And then I can write out this problem. And again, I'm going to make sure that I am lining up my decimal points. Very important to have those lined up. And since I'm subtracting, I'm going to go ahead and add some placeholders there just so that I can see, okay, what I'm doing as I'm subtracting. Now again, I can see $12 is definitely more than $3.89, so when I subtract this, I'm going to get a positive answer. I'm going to need to borrow here. In order to do that, I would first want to borrow from this place right here, but there's nothing there, so I can't borrow from that place. So then I'm going to look over here. I say, okay, well, there is something there, so I can go ahead and borrow from that place. So I'm going to borrow from there, making that a 1. If I take 1 whole and move that over to the tenths place, that gives me 10 tenths. But remember, we're looking at this place right here, so I still need to do some more borrowing. So I'm going to take this 10 and borrow 1 from there and make that a 9, and take 1/10, move it over to the hundredths place. That makes 10 hundredths. So I now have 10 minus 9, which gives me 1. Now I have 9 minus 8 in the tenths place, which gives me 1/10. And then I have 1 minus 3 in the whole number place. That doesn't work. Now, you can look at this one of two ways. I can see that I have this 1 in the tens place. So this number here in this whole number is really 11. So I could do 11 minus 3 in my head. Or if it's easier for you, you can take this 1 away, borrow it, write it up here, and then I see I have 11 minus 3, which again, same thing, is 8. And I'm going to bring my decimal point exactly down to the same spot and put it right there. And I see that I'm going to have $8.11 left over, which is exactly what I wanted to have. Pause the video now to answer the free response question. Pause here for the multiple choice question.